Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Look here. Man, CK and the homeboy got Rome and Phyllis in the back seat with the pistol on them, and they headed back to the spot. He pissed. Everything has come full circle. Rome is in the car. This the dude that either had something to do with or killed his brother. Now, he catch her and him together at her parents' house, 2 cities away. How does he know where she's at? All of this kind of stuff. And she's got 911 on her phone listening to them threatening to do something to them. Now, the 911 dispatcher is not saying anything but listening, but she's calling for backup. She's letting them know that somebody's being threatened in a car. They find a way to ping her phone. Now they're tracking them, and the police is on the way. They're coming. They're coming. And when the police passes them by, this is about a few minutes later, because they rolling, headed back to the spot. The police passes them, and all of a sudden they turn, and now they're under hot pursuit. They at them. So CK looks in the back seat. He said, how they know what's going on? The homeboy said, give me your phone. She raises the phone up. The phone is on. He grabbed the phone, throws it out the car window. The phone is gone. It's too late though. Doesn't matter now. It does not matter. The police are on them, and they know that they got 2 victims in the car. They've been threatening them and said what they're going to do to them and all of this nonsense. Case closed. Case closed. So Phyllis, she's telling CK, stop the car. Stop the car. You're going to make it worse than it has to be. Stop the car. He starts to yell at her, how you know this? How you know this? And she's looking at him. She said, stop the car, baby. Stop the car. He said, don't call me, baby. Don't be calling me, baby. You ain't my baby. Running around with this dude. You ain't my baby. She starts to cry. Then she grabs her stomach and she's clutching her stomach. And the homeboy said, hey, cuz, pull over, man. Something's wrong. And he glances back real quick and he sees her clutching her stomach. And she's rocking back and forth. He pulls over. Police on him. 3 police cars got him. They get out of the car. When they pull CK out of the car, he tell him she needs a doctor. She's pregnant. The ambulance is called. They get there real fast. They're on the way. They take her to the hospital. They take CK and the homeboy to jail. Rome goes to jail too, because they got all of this conversation on tape talking about him being the one that knew or either did shoot CK's brother, and vice versa. They got all of this information from these phones. So all 3 of them got arrested for suspicion of murder, this, that, and the third. CK and the homeboy got arrested for kidnapping and all this and that. They in jail, possibly on their way to the penitentiary. They're sitting down at the jail, spooked. CK don't know what to think. His head is spinning out of control. He calls his mom and he tells his mom on the phone everything, even though he know they were listening. He didn't care at this point, because all of the things that needed to be said for a case to be open and shut had been said when he had them in the car. So at this point, he's needing to get it all out. So he tells his mama everything that he's found out about Phyllis. And he's angry. Super angry. Feeling betrayed. Not knowing what's going on. So Phyllis, she gets out of the hospital. She comes by, talks to his mom, and trying to explain to his mom that his mom, she's about her son. She said she don't want no drama. She don't want to hear all of that nonsense. So she tells her, look, it might be best for you to just go home right now, and we'll talk later. And she leaves, but 1 month turns to 2, and 2 months turns to 3, and 3 months turn to 6. Before you know it, it's almost time for her to have a baby, and CK is already, headed to the penitentiary because they've offered him a plea deal, and he needs to take low and go before he end up locked up for the majority of his life for kidnapping. So he's thinking about taking this plea. So one day, he ups and he calls Phyllis. It's a couple of days before she goes into the hospital, the doctors are going to perform a C-section. They think that it would be too risky for her to have a natural birth. So she talks to him on the phone and she tells CK everything. She tells him the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And it crushes him. It crushes him. And on top of that, they had to let Rome out because they had no real evidence that he did anything other than talk under duress and anger and all this and that. No case at all. So they let him go. And now he's out. And Phyllis is out. And then she ends up in the hospital. It's time to have a C-section. And they have a little boy. Immediately, she wants to know who the father is. And it takes a couple of weeks for them to perform the test, get everything done. And it turns out that the father is not CK. It's Rome. And she panics. But she tells him. She tells Rome that he's the father. And she writes CK and tells him that Rome is the father of the baby. And it sends CK spiraling out of control. He starts getting high, fighting in and out of the hole, not knowing what to do. He's angry at the world, and upset that he feels like he's been played. He feels like he's been used, he's been duped, he's been bamboozled, and he's angry about it. And now he wants to do something about it. But Rome is happy. He's excited about this. He's going to be a father. And he tells Phyllis that he wants to try to make it work. He wants to see if this thing can become something. He wants to be a part of his child's life. And she agreed. She agreed. She said they'd give it a try, co-parent. What else could she do? What else could she do? So he starts to come by and all of this and that and spend time with his son and playing with his son, and she likes it. So one day, while he was there, she was cooking some food, getting stuff ready for her lunch because she had to go back to work and all of these different types of things, and then feeding the baby. And he's there helping her. And she looks at him and she sees he's not paying attention. She sees that he's good with his son. And she asked him, she said, do you want to try to make this work? Not just co-parents, but do you want to try to make this work in a relationship? And he looks at her, he says, I don't know. A lot has happened. What do you think CK is going to do when he gets out? And she tells him it's going to be a long time before he gets out, and besides, I haven't heard from him since I wrote him a letter and told him that you are the father of our child. And Rome looks at her, he says, you told him? She said, I told him everything. I'm not lying to anybody anymore. I told him the truth about what happened with us, between us, how it happened, everything. He knows everything, no secrets at all. So Rome sits down and he looks at her, and he's still deceitfully angry. He wants to do something to hurt CK. Everybody on the inside knows what happened. Everybody. And there's wars happening all over the state between the different gang factions and all this and that. But these personal beefs, they're not going there. They're not going to get Rome or vice versa, get CK because of some female. No, they're going to get one or the other because one of the homeboys on either side got murked. You understand? So those things, those scenarios are still being plotted out. But Rome, he eventually, after a couple of months, moves in with Phyllis. He moves in with her. And CK, he's found an outlet. He's found an outlet in prison where he feels comfortable. He's writing music and rapping and singing and all this and that. And he makes this song. And he gets some of the homeboys to get the song put up on YouTube, and Phyllis hears it. And it's basically a song about what happened with them. And she knows that this is an intentional thing. He's talking about how it made him feel and the pain and the heartbreak that he suffered losing his brother, and then he lost his girlfriend and future wife, and she has a child by the opposition. Crushed him, broke him, hurt him. So she writes him a letter and tells him that she heard the song and she's so sorry that she hurt him like that. He reads the letter, and the homeboy's in the cell with him. He telling the homeboy how it made him feel, and the homeboy said, man, just write her, man. Tell her how you feel, but you're going to have to one day forgive her and move on with your life, man. He said, man, you doing good. You got a lot of traction with your song on YouTube. You need to move on, but you got to forgive her and keep it pushing. So CK, he writes her back, and he tells her that he ain't there yet, but he hopes to one day to be able to forgive her and let these things be in the past. And he wishes her the best with her son and her new relationship and all this and that with Rome. But, you know, he wasn't there yet. So she writes him back, telling him that she is happy, that he's happy, and hopes one day that he can find it in his heart to forgive her and that they could be friends. And then he writes her back. She writes him back. He writes her back. She writes him back. And then one day, Rome got tired of it. He got tired of these letters going back and forth. She wasn't hiding anything from him. She was open and honest about everything that she was saying. She wasn't saying anything slick. But Rome felt insecure about it. Because, see, he still had that deceit in him. He still wanted to try to hurt somebody. So he didn't trust that she was talking to somebody that he wanted to hurt and wanted to hurt him. So he demanded that she stop writing him. And when she didn't, he beat her. He beat her bad. And she told him to get out. He couldn't stay with her. He begged for her forgiveness. He said he'd never do it again, but she said, no, you have to go. I won't raise my son around you. You can visit, have visitation and all that, but we're done. And she said, if you don't leave, I'm going to go to the police on you. And he left. That, look, when you live in that lifestyle, last thing you want to hear is somebody talking about going to the police. That's out the question. You don't want that. Not that type of smoke. So Rome left. And he would come by to visit with his son and all this and that. And he was good with his son. But he still had that deceit in his heart. So Phyllis, she wrote and she told CK what had happened. What she had done. And he wrote back saying that he was going to get somebody to hurt him. And she said, no, leave that alone. I'm moving on with my life. I don't want none of that in my life. None of that. He wrote her back and said he wouldn't do anything about it and all this and that. He just wanted to be there for her. And after a couple of months of that, back and forth writing and all this and that, she said, can I come visit? And he thought about it. And at first he said, no, I can't do that. I don't think I'm ready for that. And it crushed her. It absolutely crushed her. Because she thought that they had gotten to a point to where they could at least sit in front of each other and be cordial towards one another. But evidently not. And she wrote him and she said, I understand. After about 6 more months, she asked him again. And this time he told her, yeah, come visit. It's okay. So when she came to visit, she had her son with her. And she could not leave her son. Besides, she wanted him to see him. She wanted him to see her son. And they got into VG and they were playing and all this and that, and he was holding the little boy and laughing and doing all the things, because he was around the terrible twos a little bit, maybe a little bit older and all this and that, and he's feeding him Doritos and having fun and all this and that, and the little boy fell asleep in his arms, and he's sitting there and she's looking at him and just wondering what if. And she asked him, she said, "What are you going to do when you get out?" And he tells her, "I'm going to do my music." And she said, "Where are you going to stay?" And he said, "I don't know. Stay with moms, wherever I can get a place to stay, at a halfway house, whatever." And she tells him, "Come stay with me." And he pauses and he looks at her and he said, "I can't do that. I can't do that." And she said, "Why not?" He said, "This is too much." She said, I play with him and I do all of this, and I get that, and I understand what you're trying to do, but this ain't over between me and him. I don't know how this is going to ever end, And she said, "It ends when you say it's over. Just leave it alone." And he tells her, he said, "I wish it was that easy. I wish I could just say stop and everybody stops. But it don't work that way." She said, "It does if you say it. Walk away from it, be done." And she said, "All you have to do is be the man in it. One of y'all got to be the man, and it might as well be you." And he's listening to what she's saying. What he's saying is piercing his ears, and it's getting to his heart, and all of these different types of things. And he looks at her, he says, "Let me think about it." So when he gets back to his cell after the visit is over and all this and that, he gets back to the cell and he's talking to the homeboy. He's telling the homeboy what's going on and all this and that. And the homeboy tells him, she's right. You got to walk away from this. Walk away from the whole lifestyle. Be done with it. And we're going to go talk to the homeboys and see if we can end this and all this and that. You done lost too much. Your mama done lost too much, man. He said, "But you're going to have to leave the area. You can't live in this state." And he said, "You're going to have to leave." So he tells Phyllis what the homeboy told him, and she's happy about it. And she said, "I'll leave. If you want to move to another state, let's go. When you get out, we gone." She said, "As a matter of fact, I'll move before you get out and find us somewhere to go. Just tell me where you want to live so we can be a family." And he tells her where he wants to live and all this and that. And they have all of these dreams of getting out and doing these things together and all that kind of stuff. But he's still nervous because you got gangs in every city. And he don't know how far Rome's reach is. But the game is twisted, y'all. Let me tell you how it's twisted. 2 months before he was about to get out, right, on an early release, the case got overturned on the kidnapping thing and all this and that, because the same circumstances that allowed Rome not to be arrested was the same issues on his appeal that got some of the convictions, thrown out. So he got a lesser sentence. They reduced his sentence, and he ended up being able to get out on early release. And now he's on his way home, and Rome ends up getting shot. Didn't kill him, but it put him in a wheelchair. The man is not able to do anything. He ain't able to call no shots no more. He spends his time on his porch drinking 40s, wondering what if. And CK is on his way home, and now he's decided that he's going to be with Phyllis, and they're going to move to another state and live happily ever after. Now, that is how complicated your love life can be when you're in the gang life. Remember that for all of y'all that want to be about that life. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.